সুবিধা হয়েছে, ধরো তোমাদের ক্লাসে আমি যে ম্যাকবেথ পড়াচ্ছি তোমাদের লাইন বাই লাইন, সেই টাইমটা আমি ধরো এখানে তাহলে আমার লাগবে না, আমি তোমাদের দিয়ে দিতে পারবো ডিরেক্ট। সুবিধা আছে বলছো। ঠিক আছে, চলো শুরু করি আর কি। দেখা যাচ্ছে এটা?
হ্যাঁ স্যার, দেখা যাচ্ছে।
ঠিক আছে, চলো শুরু করি তাহলে। তোমাদের যে ম্যাটেরিয়ালটা দিয়েছিলাম পড়েছো একটু, নাকি দেখার সুযোগ পাওনি? কালকেই তো দিয়েছিলাম। কেউ দেখেছো একটু ওটা?
হ্যাঁ স্যার, দেখেছি।
তোমাদের কি মনে হচ্ছে যে এগুলোর থেকে যথেষ্ট তো, নাকি মানে এগুলো পড়ে অ্যান্সার দিতে পারবে না, না আরো কিছু দরকার? প্রায় 50 পাতার এন্ট্রি রয়েছে একটাতে, না 30 পাতা 24 পাতা। ওকে, শুরু করি। শোনো, ব্যাপারটা হচ্ছে যে কমলা দাসের কবিতা তোমরা আগে পড়োনি। That means for the first time probably that you were reading Kamala Dash. And fundamentally, whenever we think about this kind of a poetry by Kamala Dash or maybe the other poets, the first thing that comes to our mind, that means the treatment of this particular poem is to be made on the basis of two major orientations. One, it is considered as the genre of confessional poetry. That is called the confessional poem. What do you mean by confessional poem? What are the salient features of confessional poetry? And how so far we can identify that this particular work, that is Kamala Dash's An Introduction, can be considered to be an example of confessional poetry. That is number one. And number two, as you know, that Kamala Dash is to be treated as an very important feminist writer, okay, or feminist, or maybe who is writing on the basis of the feminine sensibilities in his writing, in her writing. So that means whenever we will read the poems like An Introduction or maybe the other poems by Kamala Dash, you will find certainly that the fundamental focus of her writing is based on some feminine sensibilities, and at the same time you will find that the confessional orientation that is also related with her feminine sensibility can be also classified with this particular poem. Okay, that means An Introduction or maybe the other poems that you will go through in your academic career. Now what happens, so let us tell you something about the concept of the confessional poetry. That means what is confessional poems and how so far Kamala Dash can be treated, Kamala Dash can be considered as a confessional poet, to be specific. Now, confessional, as you know the term, it actually signifies, it's a matter of confession. So what happens, fundamentally, whenever you will think of a writer is writing an autobiography, or maybe he is writing or she is writing an autobiographical text, whether it is a short story, whether it's a poem, whether it's a novel or drama, whatever it may be. But in the autobiographical orientation, say sometimes you will find some anecdotes and some personal feelings, some personal experiences. Everything has to be related, or everything has to be reused in the formation of the poem, or maybe the formation of the short story, or maybe a novel. So ultimately, you will find somehow that whenever I choose my own life, my own experience, my own feeling to be the subject matter of my writing, fundamentally, it becomes very clear, it is very common ultimately, that I have to be a bit choosy. That means generally we are some the choosy people, okay? That means we always choose some incidents, and therefore we are very much selective regarding the subject matter, regarding its treatment, regarding its presentation, okay? Because the dark areas of my life, each and every person have their own secrets, okay? So ultimately you have to be selective, you have to be very much cautious regarding whether I should introduce or I should include the secrets of my life in my writing or not. So what happens, that's why we find somehow in some cases regarding the matters with the autobiographical tendencies, or representing my own life in the formation of my literary work. Generally, there are some selections which are gradually and which are deliberately being made. And at the same time, you will find that the dark parts of my life are deliberately being cut away. Okay? And in some places, you will find that to some extent, I glorify some of my parts, my experience, my feeling, and so on. So generally, it happens, that if you read about the poets like Kamala, or maybe Anne Sexton, or maybe Sylvia Plath, okay, to be specific, these are the poets who are to be considered as the confessional poets. Why saying confessional? Because that regarding that presentation of my life, regarding the presentation of my temperament, regarding the presentation of a representation rather of my feeling and the secrets of my life, generally these people, they do not falter to express everything. Why I'm stating everything? Because you will find somehow that probably you all, the female figures who are present here, you can identify, that somehow some of the secrets, some of the sexual oppressions, some of, some kind of problems of your life, these remained completely hidden to yourself only. It happens to our lives generally, and to the females, because they are facing the typical challenges of patriarchy in each and every moment. You will find there are some direct or indirect sexual abuse, direct or indirect, restrictions, and the patterns of patriarchy that is actually controlling you. So therefore, each and every moment you will find fundamentally that whether you try to keep them hidden just because of the reputation, just because of the various kinds of problems that it may arouse or something like that. But if you think about, probably you were always thinking about yourself also, that if I express everything that I do feel, okay, which remains within my mind alone, and only I know that what I do feel, if I express them in the face of my society, my family, my larger family, and my neighbors, and also the whole world, then certainly what would happen? That is the fundamental question that each and every moment we are feeling. That if I express everything, if I just make my heart open, okay, in the face of others, then certainly there would be various kinds of problems, various kinds of interrogation marks, okay, that will be put on you by the society, representatives of the society, patriarchy, and the representatives of the patriarchy that you do face each and every day in your family, around your family, in the larger family, in the neighborhood, in the society, and so on. So that's why you will find that from the very beginning of someone's life, okay, specifically I'm talking about the females, okay. They have been completely being controlled, subjugated, and by far exploited by patriarchy regarding everything, each and every perspectives of your life, whether in the matter of expression, whether the matter of your thought, whether the matter of your writing, everything, in any particular discipline, any particular scenario, you will find that such particular subjugation has always been there. The controlling power of the patriarchy, it actually affects your life. So generally, we find that somehow whenever the persons, okay, or the poets like Kamala or Sylvia Plath or others, when they just confess to some extent, confess everything. Okay, everything, it's not simply the kind of sexual abuse that you are facing. It's not like that, similarly. Okay, rather what you do feel within the core of your heart, within the core of your mind, that is also being confessed. Okay, that means you are just breaking your heart open in the face of others in front. That's why, as if the poem signifies that these kinds of poems, these are actually focusing, these are actually talking something about the kind of confession that you try to express there. So such a kind of secret, such a kind of, the mysteries of your life, the burdens of your thought, everything got expressed in the formations of the confessional poets. And these are the authors, these are the poets who are, labeled as the confessional poets, because in their poems, we find that such a kind of confession has been made, abundant. This is one thing. The second thing, you have already known something about the matter with feminism. You know about the feminist, and you do know the basic differences between among the female and feminine and feminist. These are the three terms which are, to some extent, it seems to be closely related to each other, but there are some differences truly, as you can identify. A female is a female by gender, you see. That means a person, biologically, she becomes a female, okay? That's why whenever there is a matter with sex and gender, you have to write that I am a female. But if you think about a woman, now there lies the big difference between a female and a woman. Why I'm stating this? Because you will find that in case of the basic differentiation between a female and a woman, a person takes birth as a female, and it is society that makes her a woman. So therefore, if you think about the concept of a woman, you will find it is a concept. It is a construct. There are the obligations, the obligatory principles, the do's and don'ts. Okay, because patriarchy wants you to be a woman, quote unquote woman. Who is a woman? Woman is a figure. Woman is an entity. Woman is an existence that is completely different from that of quote unquote man. So therefore, woman, if you think about a woman, then ultimately you will find that a woman must have to be considered, a woman must have to be thought as, a kind of a binary being incorporated, a binary, a dichotomy, as a difference. Say, for example, a man is rational, quote unquote rational. So a woman must be emotional. A man must be, quote unquote, powerful. Obviously, this is indicating something bodily. And the patriarchy considers that, okay, a woman must be, quote unquote, powerless or weak. Remember, the second sex. If you place the males at the first position, then you have to think about the females to be at the second. That's why they're considered a second sex, to follow the feminist writer. Say, for example, the man have to be attributed with the outside world. He has to be attributed with the economic freedom or financial freedom. He has to be attributed with the outside work. Okay. And if you think about the woman, then they consider, they means, I'm talking about the patriarchy and the patriarchal representatives. Then it has been pointed out that a woman must have to be thought as a person who has to be treated as quote unquote queen of the house. Okay. And she has to be a weaker sex. She has to be, associated with the shy and reserved nature. She has to be conceptualized as emotional. So from each and every perspective, you will find that somehow there is a kind of a stratification. That means a strata has been created. A woman must be like this and this and this and this. So therefore, the problem arises, as you know, a woman must not have different kinds of names. A woman has to be treated as a person, and she is a person, an existence who has to be related with a male person of the society. Say, for example, if you think about a woman, she has to be treated as somebody's daughter at the first life, then somebody's wife at the second life, and then as somebody's mother, or maybe in between the sister and then the mother of somebody. So therefore, it is shown, it has been pointed out that a woman has been treated by the patriarchy as a relative entity. Okay, she doesn't have any particular independent entity of her own. And it is the basic construct of patriarchy. So that's why you have to fit in. What does it mean, fit in? That does mean, actually, there is a particular kind of a patriarchal construct, a patriarchal design that has been created. And if you think that you are a woman, then consciously or unconsciously, you have to be a part of that greater design that have been already being created, already being structured by the patriarchy. And if you protest something, if you try to think about anything alternative, if you just think radically, then certainly there will be different kind of question marks have to be asked. If you are not wearing the garments that are attributed to a woman in a particular culture, then you have to be marked as the tomboyish personality. You are the tomboy, you are the top, you have the tomboyish personality. So it creates some kind of, some kind of frowning to you. The people will look towards you in a different way. What does this woman think about herself? She is a swayed person. She has gone to dogs. That will be probably considered and that will be stamped and labeled. You are a lady, you are a girl, you are a woman who is completely being degenerated, polluted, corrupted. So these kinds of terms are always being labeled by these patriarchal representatives. There lies the basic problem, as you can see. Because whenever you are dealing with them, whenever you are thinking about them, each and everywhere they're putting some peripheral, some peripheral worlds, some peripheral designs that they're creating. They're stating that why are you wearing these? Why are you talking like this? Why are you not shy and reserved? Why you are open-hearted? Why you talk to others in front of your guardians or something? Okay. Why are you thinking something what you should not think? Why are you thinking about your own choice? Okay. But it will be the patriarchy which will create you the opportunity and it will be stated to you that, okay, this is your groom, okay, and you have to choose this man. Why? Because there lies the problem. So now think about that. Though we are now living in a particular kind of a society which is considered, quote unquote, progressed. It's a progressive society where you have your own choices. But the question is, do you have the choice properly? Or rather, you have some options. Okay, don't consider that each and everywhere, in each and every part of your society, everyone has got the similar kind of choice. No, you don't have the choice. You are the beggar, and beggars have no choice. So ultimately, you should think about everything. What we, the representatives of patriarchy, will make you think to choice. Okay. So ultimately, if you have to choose anything regarding your life, regarding your academics, regarding your groom, regarding your likings and something, everything has to be controlled, but it has been controlled actually by the patriarchal society. Now, what happens, that whenever you find that any female character is protesting against such kind of exploitation, the difficult kinds of abuses are there, as you will find in the short story like Intrusion, that is in your syllabus, obviously. Okay, the physical abuse, verbal abuse, the abuse by gaze, the abusive words and abusive, indications, different kinds of things, and you are facing, I know that you have that experience because we are not outside of patriarchy. And as females, you can feel what actually happens to you, probably that you have already attained your, to some extent, now you are in, the last part of your adolescence. So therefore, you know everything that is actually happening to you, right? So from that particular perspective, you will find that if some person or some persons in plural, whether it is the matter with the females, whether it is the matter with the males, if they are protesting to some extent against such kind of subjugation, such kind of exploitation, such kind of torture, then certainly we will say that there is something feminist in it. As if the version has certainly got changed. The gaze has certainly got changed from that of the patriarchal representatives to the female orientations. Wait a minute, কেউ একদম তখন থেকে চেষ্টা করে যাচ্ছে জয়েন করার জন্য। বুঝার প্রত্যেকদিন দেখতে আসে। So generally what happens, that what I was trying to say here, that you will find certainly that what does feminism therefore means? It's a very large term, and if you go through your M.H. Abrams, the literary terms book, and also there are some books which are specifically for this particular theory and also in the theory book, you will find that, okay, they are protesting against the basic convention of exploiting the females by the representatives of patriarchy. Truly. But that doesn't mean that whenever you are thinking about the feminists, that they are trying to exploit the males. It is not that. They are actually thinking about the equilibrium. Sammavastha. Somanadhikar. Okay. And that doesn't mean that you have to be powerful and now it is the revenge tactics that you should follow, and ultimately age long we have been controlled and dominated, subjugated, exploited by the patriarchal representatives, and now it is our time to exploit them. It is not that. Feminism doesn't mean that. Feminism says that means it is a kind of orientation of looking into life from the perspective of the downtrodden. That means it is the kind of voice that have been raised from the exploited's version, the exploited's version. So therefore, it's a kind of a post-structural orientation. Whenever you will think about the power structure, whenever you will think about any kind of exploitation, whether it is the matter with the colonialism, or maybe Marxism, or maybe the feminism. So everywhere you will find that these are the post-structural terms, because there was a kind of a structure, or there were structures of looking into society, looking into the life of others, and now it is an alternative version. So that's why it's post-structural. The alternative way of looking into life, alternative way of looking into the existential crisis that each and every female are actually facing, right? So that's why whenever you will find that somehow the leading feminists are writing from the perspective of the females, okay, and it's not the typical, the phallocentric orientation that we find in the typical masculinist patriarchal literature. Rather, we find it is a kind of an, it's a androgyny orientation. That means it is taking us from the version of a female. That means in the prevalent period, you will find that in the Elizabethan period and also in the other periods, generally, in most cases actually, you will find that each and every kind of literature has been spoken from the version of a male body. Okay, and that means the minds are different, the male mind and the female mind, because the upbringing procedures are different, the choices are different, the privileges are different. Okay, the controlling orientations are different, so therefore you will find the minds are different. What happens that everywhere beforehand we had found that somehow the literature or the literary texts, these have been dealt with from the perspective of the males, from the patriarchal designs. Okay. But now, in the later period, you will find that a new version of orientation has been introduced. And that is the version from a female's perspective. That was very much new. Okay. And when it actually came into existence, we find that the society has been treated in different terms. The situations are quite indicated, the situations are quite understood in different terms. It's the female version. So that's why whenever we will read the texts by the female authors or maybe the feminists, we find that the society, that the problems, that the crises, everything has been dealt with, everything has been described from the different kind of orientations. Is the version of the females that are very important. Here I should tell you something about the two Bengali novels. Okay. The same situation, the same orientation, the same story, but it's a love story, and it's, to some extent, it's an unfinished love because it's not been resulted in something positive or successful in terms of the general orientation of success in love, obviously. So you must read two particular, it's very good actually, two particular novels, Bengali novels. One is, it is La Nui Bengali. Okay, I repeat, La Nui Bengali by Mircea Euclid. Okay, and the second one is Nahonnate by Maitreyi Devi. Just go through the two texts. I repeat, La Nui Bengali by Mircea Euclid and Nahonnate by Maitreyi Devi. So these are the two different orientations of the same love affair. You will find how, first read La Nui Bengali because it is the typical version of a male orientation, and then read Nahonnate by Maitreyi Devi, and then you will find how charming the orientation, the orientational difference can be. Okay, the same love affair, they are the two lovers actually, Mircea Euclid and Maitreyi Devi, and you will find the basic difference of looking into the same thing, the same affair. And then you will find how the mindset are completely different from each other. So that's why it's just a different kind of example that I have already provided to you. But the basic orientation, if you go through the short stories and the novels of D.H. Lawrence, and then you will go through the writers like, say Jane Austen, or maybe the Brontes, that means the Bronte sisters, Anne Bronte, Emily Bronte, and Charlotte Bronte. And later you will find it is the matter with Virginia Woolf and others. So ultimately you will identify that what are the basic orientations, how the differences have been made regarding the narratorial pattern, the narratorial style, and the way of looking into something from a different perspective. It is very important and very significant, you see. That means whenever we go through the literatures of these different kinds of authors. Okay, now I'm speaking about the feminism actually. That's why I'm talking about the gender issues and different kinds of things. And in your next session, that means in the next semester, you will find that another orientation will be introduced. That is the gender studies, that is LGBTQ. Okay, that is lesbianism, gay, bisexual, transgendered, okay, the queer. So ultimately these will be introduced. Another version is the upgraded manifestation, obviously, of exploitation and different orientation. And this will be introduced to your syllabus because you have the text like Funny Boy by Shyam Selvadurai, and it is in your syllabus in your third semester. So fundamentally what I'm trying to suggest here, as you can see, that whenever we will read, we will go through the texts of Kamala Dash, or maybe the American writers like Sylvia Plath and Anne Sexton and Dennis Levertov and others, obviously. You will find somehow the feminist agenda, the feminist orientation is always being associated to their writing. And from another perspective, if we think about the orientation of confessionalism, then fundamentally you will find that somehow the what does the confessional actually orient, and how a female, a single female probably, but here you will not find that it's the matter with a single female. But ultimately you will find that psychologically they remain single, right? And ultimately they are duped, they are tortured, they are exploited, they are controlled, they are subjugated. And now when they are just taking their pains and they are to some extent reflecting what their heart actually felt. So it seems to be very much interesting that how they confess. And I consider that this confession is also a kind of a protest, because patriarchy doesn't want from you any kind of confession. And when you are adding a confession in the form of the poetry, it obviously says, yes, I don't follow your words. I will not, follow your comments. I will confess everything. Okay, you are trying to make me subdued. You try to make my feeling, my emotions, subdued. No, I will not keep it hidden, and I will confess everything. So therefore, the confessional orientation is always being related with the feminism, a feminist agenda, and it is also being related or associated with a kind of protest. So that's why whenever we will go through the poems by Kamala Dash, you will find certainly that somehow these texts have to be interpreted from these different junctures of orientations. Okay, so that is the introductory part, and then I will move with the text. So any question after this? Borrow after this. Budaditya, are you there?
হ্যাঁ স্যার
তুমি হচ্ছে রেগুলারলি মানে প্রত্যেকদিন তো লেখে আসো কি কারণ ঘুম ভাঙে না
স্যার আজকে আমার স্যার নেটে আমি জয়েনই হতে পারছিলাম না 9টা 5
পারছিল না কারণ আপনি তখন মাইক্রোফোন ঘটনাটা হলো যেটা যে আমি তোমাদের 9টা 10 12 13 অবধি জয়েন করেছি। তোমাদের সবার কাছে আমার রিকোয়েস্ট, ট্রাই টু বি প্রেজেন্ট ইন টাইম। আমি কতক্ষণ দেরি করবো বলো? এবার আমি যখন স্ক্রিন শেয়ার করে পড়াতে শুরু করি না, বারবার করে বেরোতে গিয়ে আমার নিজের ফ্লোটা কেটে যায়। সবাইকে বলছি চেষ্টা করো ইন টাইম জয়েন করার, আমি তারপর থেকে জয়েন করাবো না। বুঝতে পেরেছো? মানে কি বলতো, সে মুখস্থ করে তো বলি না, এবার বারবার করে কাটলে না সেই এনার্জি চলে যায় আর কি, আর ইচ্ছা করে না তারপর আর বলতে কিছু। এটা করো না, রেগুলারলি থেকো আর কি প্রেজেন্ট, ঠিক আছে?
হ্যালো স্যার।
হ্যাঁ বলো।
স্যার আপনি বললেন যে এটা একটা কনফেশনাল পোয়েম। তো স্যার কনফেশনাল পোয়েমটা কি এক ধরনের পোয়েম যেখানে কোনো পোয়েট কোনো কিছুর বিষয়ে কনফেস করছে, নাকি কমলা দাস তার লেখার মাধ্যমে তার লাইফের বিভিন্ন পার্টগুলোকে কনফেস করছে বলে এটাকে কনফেশনাল পোয়েম বলা হচ্ছে?
প্রথম, আচ্ছা বেশ ঠিক আছে, তুমি আমাকে বলো যে মানুষ কি কনফেস করে। তুমি
লাইফের বিভিন্ন কিছু হতে পারে সেটা।
ওকে, দ্যাট মিন্স সামথিং রিলেটেড টু ইউ, রাইট? এন্ড হোয়েন ইউ কনফেস দ্যাট, দ্যাট মিন্স তুমি আগে সেটা কনফেশন করোনি, সেটাকে তুমি চাপা রেখেছিলে কোনো কারণে, তাই না? জেনারেলি কনফেশন, ধরো তুমি যদি এমনি ক্রিশ্চিয়ানিটির পার্সপেক্টিভ থেকে বলতে যাও, তাহলে তুমি দেখবে যে কনফেশন কখন হয় বলো? চার্চে হয়, তাই না? সেখানে কনফেশন বক্স থাকে, সেখানে তোমার চার্চম্যান থাকে, তার সামনে গিয়ে তুমি কনফেস করছো। দ্যাট মিন্স তুমি তোমার মনের ভেতরে যত বাধা, যত তোমার খারাপ লাগা, যাবতীয় যা কিছু, কোনো খারাপ কাজ, খারাপ চিন্তা, যাই হোক না কেন, সেগুলোকে তুমি কনফেস করছো। এবং তুমি অ্যাজ ইফ ইটস আ পেনিটেন্সিয়ারি থিম অ্যাকচুয়ালি, মানে তুমি রিপেন্ট করো, তুমি চাও যে অল মার্সিফুল গড যাতে তোমাকে মার্সি দেয়, সেই কারণে কনফেশনটা হয়, তাই না? তোমার ভেতরের যত খারাপ কিছু সেগুলোকে তুমি উন্মুক্ত করে দাও কারোর সামনে। তা আমরা অনেক ক্ষেত্রেই বলি যে মনের ভেতরের প্রবলেম গুলো একটু কাউকে বলে ফেলতে পারলে মনে হয় অনেক বেশি হালকা মনে হয়। সো থিঙ্ক অ্যাবাউট দ্যাট, দ্যাট কনফেশন কিন্তু দ্যাট মিন্স ইট ইজ সামথিং রিলেটেড টু ইউর হার্ট, ইট ইজ সামথিং রিলেটেড টু ইউর ইনার কনসাসনেস, সেখান থেকে আসছে। সেই রকম ভাবে ট্রিট করে তাহলে বুঝতে পারবে গুরুত্বটা কতটা। ঠিক আছে?
হ্যাঁ স্যার ঠিক আছে। স্যার বলছি এরকম কি আরো কি পোয়েট আছে যারা এরকম কনফেস করছে?
আছে তো। তুমি কনফেশনাল পোয়েট্রি বলে তুমি যদি সার্চ করো গুগলে, ইউ উইল গেট আ লিস্ট অফ দেম। ঠিক আছে? প্লেন
আচ্ছা
গুগলে
স্যার।
যদি সার্চ করো কনফেশনাল পোয়েট্রি এন্ড কনফেশনাল পোয়েটস বলে, ইউ উইল ফাইন্ড দ্য লিস্ট।
ঠিক আছে স্যার।
তোমাদের যেমন সিলভিয়া প্লাথ আছে, সিলভিয়া প্লাথ তোমাদের মনে হয় পড়ানো হচ্ছে সেমিস্টার 5 এ গিয়ে। প্লাথের তোমাদের দুটো কবিতা আছে, তোমরা যদি শুনতে চাও শুনতে পারো, আমার মনে হয় ওটা ইয়েতে দেওয়া আছে প্রবাবলি আমার ইউটিউবে।
ইউটিউবে দেওয়া আছে স্যার?
হ্যাঁ, ওটা ড্যাডি বলে একটা কবিতা আছে তোমাদের সিলেবাসে, আর একটা হচ্ছে প্রবাবলি লেডি ল্যাজারাস। এই দুটো কবিতা মনে আমার ইউটিউব করা রয়েছে প্রবাবলি, আমার মনে পড়ছে না আদৌ করা হয়েছিল কিনা। না থাকলেও ক্লাসগুলো আছে, তুমি চাইতে চাইলে শোনাতে পারবে। তুমি সিলভিয়া প্লাথকে নিয়ে দেখো, প্লাথ প্লাথ ইজ ভেরি ফেমাস অ্যাকচুয়ালি রিগার্ডিং দিস। একটা অদ্ভুত ব্যাপার কি জানো, যে পেট্রিয়ার্কির এগেইনস্টে তো অনেক কথা বলেছেন, কিন্তু পেট্রিয়ার্কিকে না এরা কখনোই তোমার এখান থেকে বেরোতে পারেনি জানো। মানে এটা খুব বড় আইরনি আর কি। আলটিমেটলি দ্য ফেমিনিস্টস, they always tried to think about negating patriarchy or maybe patriarchal subjugation against a protest করেছেন, কিন্তু আলটিমেটলি কি হয়েছে যে তারা কিন্তু শেষে গিয়ে একটা অদ্ভুত পরিণতিতে সবাই এসেছে। যেমন তুমি যদি ভাবো সিলভিয়া প্লাথের কথা, বা তুমি যদি ভাবো ভার্জিনিয়া উলফের কথা। ভার্জিনিয়া উলফের নাম তো নিশ্চয়ই তোমরা শুনেছ, সাইকোলজিক্যাল নভেল লিখতেন ভার্জিনিয়া উলফ। এবার এরা সবাই কিন্তু সুইসাইড কমিট করছেন লাস্টে, জানো তো? মানে আমি বলছি না যে ফেমিনিস্ট মানে সুইসাইড করে, কিন্তু তাদের এইমটা বড় অন্যরকম। যেমন ধরো সিলভিয়া প্লাথ ফর এক্সাম্পল, তুমি যদি লেডি লেজারাস পড়ো, তোমার সিলেবাস আছে, পড়তে তো হবে। লেডি লেজারাস সিলভিয়া প্লাথ বলছেন, ও বারবার করে প্রচেষ্টা করছে আর কি যে তোমার সুইসাইডে, আর বারবার করে বেঁচে যাচ্ছে। ঠিক আছে, লাস্ট টাইম সে সাকসেসফুল হচ্ছে আর কি, কিন্তু এই লাস্ট টাইমটা যেভাবে তার সুইসাইডটা হয়েছিল, তুমি যদি সেটা পড়ো মানে ভয়ানক আর কি। Generally কি হয়, ধরো whenever a person actually commits suicide, at the very last moment he tries to save herself, right? তাই তো হয় জেনারেলি। যে ধরো জলে ঝাঁপ দিচ্ছে মরার জন্য, সেও কিন্তু শেষ মুহূর্তে বাঁচার চেষ্টা করে। বা যে ধরো তোমার হ্যাং করছে আর কি, সেও কিন্তু লাস্ট মুহূর্তে চেষ্টা করছে বাঁচার জন্য। নর্মালি সেটাই হিউম্যান সাইকি, মানে তুমি সেখান থেকে বাঁচার চেষ্টা করবে। তখন তার তোমার সেই মনের জোর সেই পরিমাণ থাকে না, কিন্তু আলটিমেটলি প্লাথ যখন লাস্ট মারা যাচ্ছেন, তিনি যে ওভেন হয় না, ওভেনের বার্নার, সে ওভেনের বার্নারের মধ্যে মুখ ঢুকিয়ে মারা যাচ্ছেন, মানে জ্বলন্ত বার্নারের মধ্যে। ক্যান ইউ ইমাজিন দ্যাট হাউ মাচ পাওয়ারফুল আ মাইন্ড ক্যান বি? জেনারেলি কি হওয়ার কথা, সেই আগুনের মানে তোমার ছোঁয়াটা লাগার সঙ্গে সঙ্গে তো মুখ সরে যাওয়ার কথা হিসাব করে, কিন্তু সেটা করেননি। I don't know whether এটা কোন রকম কি বলবো হয়তো insanity বা one kind of কি বলবো আর কি, এটা খুব বাজে পরিস্থিতি আর কি। কিন্তু আলটিমেটলি আমার এখানে বলা যেটা দরকার আর কি, সেখানে আমি বলতে চাইছি যে ওরিয়েন্টেশন ছিল ডিফারেন্ট সাবজেক্ট। পড়বে ক্লাস তো পড়বে তোমরা, আর যদি মনে করো এখন দেখতে পারো, জাস্ট গো থ্রু ইন্টারনেট এন্ড রাইট ক্লাস পয়েন্টস। ড্যাডি আছে তোমাদের সিলেবাসে, লেজারাস আছে, এরিয়ালটাও খুব ভালো কবিতা, এগুলো করতে পারো, সামানে দিয়ে পড়ো, দেখো বুঝতে পারবে কি আছে। ইটস গুড। কমলা দাসও খুব ভালো। কমলা দাসের তো আমি দুখানা কবিতা অলরেডি তোমার ইউটিউবে দেওয়াই আছে, দেখতে পারো। কমলা দাসের একটা রীতিমতো তোমার ইয়ে নিয়েই কবিতা আছে, ইনভিটেশন বলে, যে কবিতাটা আমি বলছিলাম এর মতো কাছাকাছি। ইনভিটেশনটাই এটা, যেন তাকে মনে হয় যে সমুদ্র যেন ডাকছে আর কি, কাছে আয়, ওটাই ইনভিটেশন, যেন ইনভাইট করছে যে কাম। আগুনে পোড়ার থেকে এটা অনেক ভালো, ঠান্ডায় নিচে গিয়ে শুয়ে থাকবে, এরকম ভাবে আর কি আছে। দেখবে কবিতাটা, ইউটিউব থেকে শুনবে, তাহলে বুঝতে পারবে। এখানে সেই সব ইন্ডিকেশন নেই। এই কবিতাটার প্রথম দিককার তো ইন্ট্রোডাকশন বুঝতেই পারছো, কারণ শুরুর দিককার কবিতা, মানে as if she is introducing her life and academic or maybe career or something, এবং কি কি প্রবলেম তিনি ফেস করছেন সেগুলো আছে ডিরেক্টলি। খুব ভালো কবিতা যেটা আছে সিলেবাস, দারুণ, মানে দুর্দান্ত কবিতা।
স্যার বলছি, তিনি কি ওনার সব লেখাগুলোতেই এইরকম কনফেসই করে গেছেন?
থ্রু আউট কেরিয়ার কিন্তু সবাই এক ধরনের লেখা লেখেন, তবে অনেক কবিতার মধ্যে এগুলো আছে। সব কি আর এক টাইপের হয়?
হ্যাঁ স্যার, ওনার একটা অটোবায়োগ্রাফি, ওই যে মাই স্টোরি, ওটাও তো এই বিষয়ে।
কিন্তু কিছু না কিছু তো থাকেই যেগুলো একটু অন্যরকম। একটু শোনো কমলা দাসের উপর ভালো কিছু ইউটিউব ম্যাটেরিয়াল দেখো, ভালো লেকচারস কিছু।
ঠিক আছে স্যার।
ক্লাবটাকেও মাথায় রেখো, ক্লাবটা খুব ভালো, সিলভার ক্লাব। তুই ভাবো এমন একটা টপিক নিয়ে, যেমন ড্যাডি ফর এক্সাম্পল, ড্যাডি বলে যে কবিতার কোন সিলেবাসে আছে সেমিস্টার 5 এ, ওটাতে ওটা ডিএসসি 2 তে আছে প্রবাবলি। এবং সেখানে তোমার ওর যে ফাদার ফিক্সেশন যেটা বলে না, মানে তোমার তো ইডিপাস কমপ্লেক্স শুনেছো, তার যে অল্টারনেটিভ যেটা আর কি, মানে ইলেকট্রা কমপ্লেক্স, সেই ইলেকট্রা কমপ্লেক্সের ওরিয়েন্টেশন ডিরেক্টলি রয়েছে। বুঝতে পেরেছো? এইগুলো তো আমরা যেমন চাপা দিয়ে রাখতে চাই, তাই না? সেটাকে তো উন্মুক্ত করতে চাই না, কিন্তু এরা সেটা করেছে। আচ্ছা, আর কার কোনো কোশ্চেন থাকলে বলো। Any query? Any one of you? Anything to ask?
বলছি এটা থেকে আপনি মাস্টার নোট দেবেন না?
মাস্টার নোট
মানে এই আগের যে টপিকটা পড়ালেন, এর আগে যেমন কিছু কিছু যেমন ফার্স্ট সেমে কিছু কিছু মাস্টার নোট দিয়েছে, মানে একটা কোশ্চেন লিখলে আপনার একটা কোশ্চেন পড়লে সবগুলো মোটামুটি একটা কভার করা যায়, সেরকম টাইপের।
আমি তোমাদের দেখবে একটা বই থেকে দিয়েছি আমি, সেগুলো পড়েছো?
হ্যাঁ, ওটা 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 পড়েছে, ওই মোটামুটি 20-30 পাতার মতো ইয়ে, তাই তো?
হ্যাঁ, সেটা আগে পড়ে নাও, তারপরে দেখছি। মেটেরিয়ালস এর উপরে নেটে অ্যাভেলেবল প্রচুর, যেখান সেখান থেকে পড়ো, কোনো আপত্তি নেই।
আচ্ছা।
তাহলে কারো কোনো কোয়েরি নেই তো? মোটামুটি বুঝতে পেরেছো? ঠিক আছে, তাহলে টেক্সট শুরু করি। দেখো, okay. The title of the poem is an introduction, so therefore the certain question that comes to our mind, an introduction to what? Okay, So therefore, you will find that if we consider that the basic temperament of Kamala Das is to express her inner mind, is to express her inner thoughts, is to express the secrets of her life, is to express the different kinds of crises that she is actually facing in front of the patriarchal subjugations and the controlling attitudes of the representatives of patriarchy, then certainly the introduction, and if we consider that the academic career of Kamala Das is to be considered as a matter of vivid protest against this patriarchal subjugation, then this particular poem is to be considered as an introduction to it. That means an introduction to the elongated life of protesting against the deadening conventions of patriarchal designs. Okay, that means how patriarchy is subjugating in the orientations of their controlling attitude and controlling power over the females. An introduction is actually indicating to that, an introduction to all these. Okay, so therefore it's an introduction to her confessional orientation. It is an introduction to her feminist orientation. So everything has to be treated in this particular way. It says, it begins in this particular fashion: I don't know politics, but I know the names. What it indicates of those in power, and can repeat them like days of weeks or names of months, beginning with Nehru. So you know that when this particular poem was written, it was the time of the Congress regime, and fundamentally you will find Nehru was in power at the time. She begins everything she was associated with, because everywhere you will find, if you think in terms of politics, if you think in terms of different designs, everywhere you will find all the powerful, quote-unquote powerful personalities of India, or rather of world, the controlling powers of the world, the controlling power of India, you will find that these are the persons who are representing the patriarchal society. These are the politicians and government officials actually who exercise power to influence the public life. So therefore, the text actually begins with the basic orientation to the power of power politics. Okay, so that's why she begins the particular poem in this particular fashion. I don't know politics. As you can see that the politics, these are indicated in terms of representing power with which the decisions have been made, the influential decisions have been made, and that actually affects the public life. So therefore, that particular orientation of power is at the focus at the very onset of this particular poem. It says, therefore, I don't know politics, but I know the names of those in power. Who are the powerful persons? I know them. I can repeat them, or repeat their names actually, like days of weeks or names of months. It's very common because each and every day their names have been uttered by us. So if you think about the orientations of power, we always know that the powerful is the sovereign. The powerful is those personalities who are the representatives of patriarchy altogether. It's not a female, but a male. And therefore it says that their names are very common to us, they all. Okay? Like days of week or names of months. And now a representative has been incorporated here, beginning with Nehru. That is Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India. As you know that he came to power in the year 1947 after the British left India. So therefore, he is just another man, you see. He is the most powerful person of India at the time. And here you will find that the truth is created by the most powerful, it says Friedrich Nietzsche, the existentialist, the German existentialist. So therefore, the persons who have the power, the truth is created by them. They have the controlling ability, controlling others, controlling all, including the females. So that's why the poem actually begins with the orientation of power and the persons who are exercising power in this way. She says, she discloses her identity, her originality. She says, I am Indian, very brown, born in Malabar. Now this is the identity. She says, I am an Indian, I am very brown by complexion actually, it's called the coffee brown. And I took birth in Malabar. What it states actually, as I have already mentioned, that everywhere you will find the different types of existential crisis is to be related with the females. So therefore, each and every moment you are trying to establish your existence, where your existence is being questioned repeatedly by patriarchal representatives. Your color, your attitude, your life, where you took birth, your racial identity, everything becomes a matter of question. When your originality is in front of an interrogation mark, then each and every identity, Indian, it is an identity. Brown complexioned, it is an identity. A person who took birth in Malabar, the regional orientation, this is another identity. So everywhere you will find that different kinds of identity crisis is being there. If you think about that kind of identity crisis, yes, it's true that the same crisis had been felt by not only the females but also the males. True. But there is an added part to it, the female faces regarding her identity crisis that the males do not follow or face. So here in this particular section, you will certainly find that the identity orientations are always being pointed out. Different kinds of identity crisis being incorporated. I am Indian, very brown, born in Malabar. Then she says, I speak 3 languages, write in 2, dream in 1. So what are the 3 languages? The 3 languages are, as you can see here, it has been pointed out. The 3 languages are Malayalam, Canaries, and English. These refer to her different kinds of identities and different kinds of linguistic identity there. She says, I speak 3 languages. As you can see here, it is Malayalam, Canaries, and English. Then write in 2. These are referring to Malayalam and English. Dream in 1. That is actually Malayalam. That means Malayalam and English. These are the 2 languages she actually wrote in. And she could speak Malayalam, Canaries, and English. She could dream only in 1, that is Malayalam. That is her real identity actually. Malayali. This is the mother tongue to some extent. But still, in spite of not having the mother tongue as English, she tried to write in English. And that's why we are reading her poems. Because we know that English does have the better currency. it reaches more people, truly. So, though she was a Malayali, though she dreamed in that particular language, but still she tried to write in English, and there was a problem to the patriarchal representatives. Why? Why are you trying to write in English? They said. Who are they? This they refer to the patriarchal representatives, or the representatives of patriarchy, whether it is the matter with the relatives, neighbors, friends, visiting cousins, critics, etc. all. So therefore the question is, don't write in English, they said. English is not your mother tongue. Why are you trying to write in a different way? Who actually told you that you can? So you see, restrictions. You see, controls. You see, harming or marring your choices, destroying your choices. You cannot choose anything, because your life will be controlled. We are the puppeteers, the representatives of patriarchy, and you are the puppet. So therefore, whenever you will try to decide something, try to be what we want you to be. Try to write that what we want you to write. Don't try to write anything that you do not think fit for it. So that's why the do's and don'ts, the obligations, the advices / orders. Don't write in English, they said. English is not your mother tongue. And then the protest, then the outcome, then the outburst. She says, why not leave me alone? I can do what I choose. I can do what I think fit for me. Why not leave me alone? You are the persons who are not my near and dear ones, who are not my relatives, who are the distant parts, so far as my life and relations are concerned. Critics, friends, even visiting cousins, মাঝে মাঝে এসেছে কোনোদিন এসে গিয়ে জ্ঞান দিয়ে চলে গেল। Every one of you, why not leave me alone? ছেড়ে দাও না আমাকে আমার মতো বাঁচতে দাও। So that is the thing actually that she wants to say. I don't want your advices. I don't want your, say, do's and don'ts. Why not leave me alone? You critics, you friends, visiting cousins, every one of you. Why not let me speak in any language I like? Right? It is your choice. If you want to speak in Malayalam, then you must do this. If you want to speak in Canaries, you can do that. But why such prerogatives? Why such obligations? So that's why this is a deliberate question, deliberate protest. She speaks here. She says, don't write in English. They say it. English is not your mother tongue. Why not leave me alone, critics, friends, visiting cousins, every one of you? Why not let me speak in any language I like? Any language. The language I speak becomes mine. It's my language, right? হতে পারে সেটা বলতে গিয়ে হয়তো অনেক রকম প্রবলেম হলো, হতে পারে তার মধ্যে ডিস্টরশনস থাকলো, হতে পারে তার মধ্যে কুয়ারনেস তৈরি হলো, যে যাকে বলছে সে হয়তো বুঝলো না, সে অবাক চোখে তাকাচ্ছে, প্রশ্ন চিহ্ন তৈরি হচ্ছে তার সামনে। ওকে, but this half-uttered utterances, broken languages, broken expressions, সেগুলো তো আমার একান্ত নিজস্ব। আমি যা ভাবি, আমি যা ফিল করি, এটা তো তারই আউটকাম। Where is the problem in it? Why are you putting everywhere the question marks in my life? How dare you to do so? So she says, the language I speak becomes mine. Its distortions, its queernesses, all mine, mine alone. It is half English, half Indian, funny perhaps, but it is honest. আমি যা ভাবি আমি তাই বলি। হতে পারে সেটা ঠিক নয়, গ্রামাটিক্যালি এরোনিয়াস, হতে পারে সেটা হাফ ইন্ডিয়ান হাফ ইংলিশ, জাস্ট লাইক আওয়ার বেঙ্গলিশ, ইউ নো, হতে পারে সেটা ফানি, এটা শুনতে হয়তো খুব ভালো লাগছে না, বাট ইট ইজ অনেস্ট। It is as human as I am human. Don't you see? Okay? কারণ যে ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজটা আমি বলছি সেটা আমি যতটা মানবিক, আমি যতটা মানুষের মতো, আমার ভাষাটাও ততটাই মানুষের। Don't you see that? It voices my joys, my longings, my hopes. আমার আনন্দ, আমার চাওয়া পাওয়া, আমার ভালো লাগা, সবকিছু এখানে রয়েছে। So it voices everything. It voices my joys, it voices my longings, it voices my hopes, and it is useful to me. Okay, I can use them, and it is useful. Just like cawing is to crows or roaring to the lions. Lions এর কাছে তার roaring যেরকম useful, একটা কাকের কাছে তার cawing যেরকম useful. Similarly, this language is useful to me in the same way, it says. Right? Okay, so up to this. এই অবধি থাক, এরপরে আবার নেক্সট লেখা থেকে শুরু করব। লাইন্স পর্যন্ত হবে। Right? Any question up to this? বলো, বুঝতে পেরেছো মোটামুটি এই অবধি?
হ্যাঁ স্যার, বুঝতে পেরেছি। কিন্তু স্যার ওই মাঝে যে বই দুটোর নাম বললেন, ওই দুটো একটু মানে স্পেলিংটা গ্রুপে লিখে দিলে ভালো হবে।
আচ্ছা, বাংলা বই তো একটা হচ্ছে ন হন্যতে।
আচ্ছা। ও
দন্তের ন, হ দন্তের নয় জফলা তয়কার।
আচ্ছা।
ন হন্যতে বাই মৈত্রী দেবী, পড়বে দারুণ লাগবে, অসাধারণ। মানে দুটো ভার্সন এত ভালো, মানে তুমি যে ডিফারেন্সটা, মানে একটা মেল আইডিওলজি আর ফিমেল আইডিওলজি পরিষ্কার বুঝতে পারবে। আর কলেজ লাইফে পড়ার ব্যাপার কি, বুঝতে পেরেছো? ভালো লাগে। আর একটা বললাম যেটা, তার নাম হচ্ছে লা নুই বেঙ্গলি। লা মানে লয় আকার লা, নুই দন্তের নয় হস্যু হস্যই, আর বেঙ্গলি, বেঙ্গলি বাঙালি আর কি। ঠিক আছে? রাইটারের নাম মির্চা ইউক্লিড। এটা অনেক জায়গায় লেখা থাকে মির্চা ইলিয়াড, মির্চা এলিয়াদ বা মির্চা ইউক্লিড। এটা পড়ো, মানে যাদের একটু পড়তে ভালো লাগে তারা পড়ো, অবশ্যই ভালো লাগবে পড়তে। আগে লালি বেঙ্গলি পড়বে, তারপরে রহমনাতে পড়বে, পরে আমাকে ফিডব্যাক দেবে কেমন লাগলো। ছোট ছোট বই, খুব বেশি দাম নয় এবং খুব বেশি বড়ও নয়, সব মোটামুটি 150 পাতার মধ্যে হয়। আমিও পড়েছি আমার সেই কলেজ লাইফে। বলো আর কি কোয়ারি? আচ্ছা, আমাদের পরের দিন কি পড়ার কথা বলো তো, ইয়েতে রবিবারে? রবিবারে কি পড়ার কথা, মানে আগামীকাল?